in here, and this is my video from the contest for the video suggestions. I got a lot of suggestions and it was kind of hard to decide what to do, but I've settled on CP tips for Square-1, and this was suggested by Paweł Marczak, so thank you for that suggestion. First, I'm just going to go through and show all the algorithms for the basic CP cases. So the first one is when you have two adjacent corners that need to be flipped on both sides, and so you put the bar in the back like this, so those are the two bars in the back. Then you do the second one is where you have two opposite corners on the top and two adjacent on the bottom. So for this, you hold the bar on the left on the bottom, so that your corners need to switch are right here. Then on the top, it doesn't matter how you have it, because anyway, it's still like two diagonal. So from here, you're gonna do the next one is when you have all the corners on the bottom are solved, and then you have two adjacent on the top, so it looks like this, and you hold the bar in the back. So the next one is when you have all the corners on the top are solved and you have two adjacent on the bottom, and again you hold the bar in the back. The next is when you have opposite corners on both sides, so it doesn't matter how you hold this. The next is where you have diagonal corners on the top and nothing on the bottom. I actually don't know like a proper algorithm for this. I just do the two adjacent case, the JJ case, and then like a U2, and then do it again, like that. Same for on bottom, if you have the diagonals, but you do the JJ and then D2 and then do it again, like that. So those are all the basic cases for the CP step of Square-1. And next I'm just going to show some little ideas and tricks that you can incorporate into your solve to get a better edge permutation. So first you have this idea of block preservation. So if I have this, I have two adjacent corners on both sides, so normally you would just do that, but then you would end up with a U-perm on the top. But since you see this is like a J-perm on the bottom, but it's like a L-perm on the top, so you can, instead of like slicing through that, you can preserve these blocks by offsetting it by 1 to preserve that block, and then you can do the same algorithm and it preserves that block and solves the whole cube. You can also do that for things like this where you have the opposite and the adjacent, and so normally if I did the algorithm you would have an H-perm on top, but instead of slicing through that block on top, you see I can offset it by 1 again, and then do the same algorithm, and it solves all the. You can also do this if it won't solve all the cube. If you have like one block like this, and you have just one edge that can be saved, then that one edge will be solved, and that can help. Instead of having like a H-perm or a Z-perm, you have a U-perm. So for this, you see I have like that bar on the bottom, but then if I just held the bar in the back and did the normal one on top, I would end up with a Z-perm. But since I have this block right here, if I offset it by 1, it'll preserve that and keep that green edge solved there, so I end up with a U-perm instead of a Z-perm. And the last thing I have to share with you is this idea of CP parity. A few people use this. It's not that widespread, and I'm not sure how many people know about it, but this is useful if you have if you just finished all of your orientation and now you're looking for your CP. You can recognize it as like, look at the top as if it were a PLO, and look at the bottom as if it were a PLO. So I see on top I have like an A-perm, right? Then on the bottom I have just two adjacent corners switched. So that's not like an actual PLO case that can occur on a 3x3. So if you have either both are PLOs that would work, or neither of them are, then you don't have parity, like as long as they match. But since this is one is a PLO and one isn't, then I know I have parity. So there's a set of algorithms for doing this and doing the parity as well, or doing CP and C. So there's a set of algorithms for this where you can do corner permutation and parity at the same time, so that you end up with a nicer edge permutation case. So if I did this normally, I would have a U-perm on top and an adjacent on the bottom, which kind of sucks. But instead, if I do the CP parity case, then I just end up with an H-perm, and it solves the parity. So that's a useful set of algorithms. I don't know all of them, but I know enough of them that I can like use them in combinations that works a lot of the time. So that's a useful thing to learn as well. So that's all the tips and tricks I have for corner permutation. And if you have any questions or other things to add to this, then just leave a comment below. And thank you for watching. And again, thanks to Paweł Marczak for the idea for this video.